Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on the Balls from Ellwood show. We haven't been here in a few weeks, but we're back and we're in rare form. We're ready to go. Let's hit the ground running. This is my ride or die, Xtina.
Howdy.
How you doing there?
I'm doing all right. Hanging in there, you know.
And this week we have a new addition to the Balls from Ellwood family.
Come here.
Would you like to introduce
Come
the
on.
world to our new kid?
Our new kid, our child, our daughter.
Our daughter, Izzy.
Come here, daughter. Ugh. Uh-oh, my microphone's falling. This is our beautiful daughter. She takes after her dad.
As you can see, she's bald, I'm bald. She's definitely mine.
Yep.
So,
say hi, Izzy. Hi, Izzy.
say hi to our 3 viewers, Izzy. Say hi.
All right, you may be dismissed. It's like a typical kid. They don't want anything to do with mom and dad's shit.
Too cool for school.
Yep.
So, but anyway, we're back. We have an incredible episode. We have, hey, tell them who this week's guest is, Xtina.
This week's guest is John Kassir.
Who's that?
Who the heck is that? You may know him as... Yeah, I can't do it. The Crypt Keeper.
I was going to say, is he a banshee?
Luckily, he does it better than me.
Yes, he does.
Oh, you even do it better.
Welcome, Megan.
What the fuck is yeah?
Welcome, boys and ghouls. This next crypt-filled little ditty is called
Xtina loses her mind.
That sounds about right.
That's what I would imagine if you were in a nut house, like in a straight jacket trying to chew through the stuff. That's what you would sound like, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anywho, I'm going to blow through some stuff here. Xtina has an all-new, different, multiple segmented
I got a Depravity Corner. It's like a news update, more or less. But there's a lot of exciting crime news today. Lots.
So she's got lots of fucked up shit to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Balls needs a nap.
I need that, man. This is where this week fucking kicked my ass for sure. But anyway, let's get right to it. I'll tell you something that's been burning my ass for quite a while since I heard about it. I actually read today that they're going to Morgan Creek is trying to reboot The Exorcist.
What?
I can't think of a worse idea.
I agree.
Reboots are usually pretty lame to begin with. The Exorcist hasn't even been on the screen in any sort of sequel form in, probably a decade and a half, if I'm guessing right.
Yeah. And
that never really did too well. To me, the first one is always going to be, one of the great scary films of our generation. And you're never going to be able to catch lightning in a bottle twice.
That's correct.
I actually, I like 3 a lot, man. A lot of people, when that first came out, wasn't really down with it. But over time, it's become quite a, cult hit. And I think it has a lot to do with Brad Dourif's creepy portrayal.
Oh, yeah.
But I think 1 and 3 is really the only watchable in the whole series. And here's the thing. Here's the problem, I think, what is going to be bad if they do this. And I kind of felt this way about the sequels before. Back when that first came out, it was very groundbreaking, and it's a terrifying thing. Demonic possession. Nothing scarier than that.
Yeah.
Over time, there's been so many regurgitations and reboots and, piggyback movies and low-budget movies, and now you don't have that same, impact.
Exactly.
Now whenever you hear something like, your mother sucks cocks at home, it's that kind of thing, it comes off like it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's not scary, it's just, retarded.
Right.
So, I just don't know how they're going to do that. I would, as a director, writer, I wouldn't want that project for sure, but they're going to do it. It's coming out this year, and, well, I have no interest whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something I did snooze on that we could both talk about. I don't know how I don't know how I slept on it, but it went under my radar. I should just say I never got around to it. I kind of was on my list of something to get to, and I never did. But I have been super enjoying the heck out of the Umbrella Academy, man. Everybody you know is on Netflix season 2, and we're just catching up on season 1, man. And
Yeah.
I tell you what, I super love it. I think Ellen Page is really, really good. Not to mention, I think it's an ensemble cast where I think everybody's really
Yeah,
pretty good.
You know, and I'm like the person who, once I start seeing people that I like actor-wise, you know, I start doing research on them, like, where'd they come from? Where'd they come from? And, like, so many of these people really don't have a lot of history behind them. They don't have huge resumes. So a lot of them, this is their first big break anyway. And so that's exciting. That's very exciting, you know?
And I don't think what people see, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I mean, my boy from My Chemical Romance wrote the comics, and this was adapted from the comics. So, I mean...
that's pretty cool.
Which I think, I mean, I never had the opportunity to read them. I always wanted to, but I mean, it seems like it's a pretty good adaptation. I mean, not only that, one thing that's definitely solid about this series is the music. Like,
oh man, they do such a good job.
The music really kind of is almost a character in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it really kind of adds that extra, you know, suspense when it needs to, or you know, or that emotional feeling.
Right.
So, I mean, I can't.
You know, as much as I love music and Balls loves music, I often think I don't know that I could be that guy. You know, be that guy who does that job, who, you know, picks that perfect song for that scene in the show. You know, I would love to be, but I just don't know that I could do it. And the people who do, man, my hat's off to you, because that's incredible.
Yeah, I think people think that'd be an easy job. I think it'd be an incredibly difficult
I think it'd be
job.
hard as hell.
Like, I could never. I don't.
And then to get it right, you're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's, my hat's off, man. I'm super into it. I can't wait to start season 2. The only sad thing is once you catch up, like, you gotta wait how long for...
exactly. Like, I was thinking the other day about Ozark, and I'm like, man, we, like, waited a year and a half. We're so excited, and then, poof,
I heard a rumor that...
gone.
I heard a rumor that you might not even see the last season, because Netflix is on this mad terror where they're just, like, killing series, like, before their time. Yeah, that, what is it?
Better not.
What was that? I am not okay with this.
Yeah.
Everybody was all clamoring for the season 2, and they just chopped it off.
The kibosh.
Yeah, I read I mean, I hope it's not true, but I read like a list of shows that
they're not going to do that to Ozark.
I hope
can't
not,
imagine.
man. We need that. Oh, there's no way that could be the end.
Right.
You'd forever
can't do that.
be wondering,
right,
you know, like,
right.
I can't. That's not cool, man. If that happens, I'd be like, fuck you, Netflix.
Right, no doubt.
There's one thing I wanted to talk about. I'm not sure of the show though, but speaking of Netflix, I keep seeing in the media today, like, everybody is like all up in arms about the show on there that's like, you know, glorifying.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Cuties.
Is that what that is?
It's called Cuties, and it's from a French. I guess it originated in France. It was a French show called something else in French, obviously, but they've, you know, readapted it for America, and they call it Cuties. And yeah, it's these young girls. They're like 12 years old, and they're basically like, you know, trying to look all sexy.
No, is this like that Dance Moms thing? Where
no, that's what it looks like, because I started researching.
Because I'm thinking, if that's a pageant like Dance Mom, I think that's a terrible.
I hate that
too.
stuff too. But
I don't like it. I don't like the glory. I don't like the sexualization of little girls.
Right. No, this is far worse from what little bit I read. It's, you know, it's the coming of age tale of these 12-year-old girls. Come here, Izzy. Come tell the story.
Well, here was my issue with it. I'd read on the internet this guy actually wasn't being a jerk.
Okay, come.
But he was. He wrote Netflix, and he's like, you know, hey, how could you be okay behind the series? And they more or less said, well, we don't persecute any race, creed, religion. Pedophilia is not a race, creed, or religion.
Oh, Jesus, right.
So why would you make that remark? I mean, I haven't seen it. I can't really say.
Yeah.
I can't give you my full opinion because I actually haven't seen it. But I've seen little bits and pieces, and it looks pretty creepy.
It's not like it's not a dance show, from my understanding. It's like a show about these young girls who are starting to experiment sexually and starting to experiment with marijuana, and you know, and it's just, I don't know, you know.
That to me is in very poor taste.
I agree, especially in this day and age with all the sex trafficking and stuff. We're trying to stop this shit.
Yeah, man. I don't think I mean, I'm definitely all about, you know, not censoring things, but I think there's some things that are just so disgusting that, like, they shouldn't even be seen anyway.
Hashtag save the children. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of things around. I don't know if you saw this on the internet, where there's, I don't know if it's like Facebook pages or what, but there's these internet pages where people are finding pictures of their children on there.
What?
And it's like a pedophilia page.
What?
And there's comments, and again, it's probably legit, but there's comments of like, there's this little girl like spread eagle with a diaper on, and these men are making comments like, oh yeah, that's a great position. What the fuck? If I found my kid's picture, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't put pictures of your kid on the internet. Well, that's a fine line. You know.
Well, you don't think some sicko is going to take it and turn it into a whole different thing.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, normal people don't think like that.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really fucked up. And so yeah, someone shared these like screenshots of this, disgusting site with these, nasty pervs, and they're talking disgusting about these babies, and it's just, it's foul. It's absolutely foul.
Well, that brings me back to my point of like, there's things that shouldn't be seen.
Right.
Like, I don't believe that things should be censored, but I think things like bestiality and rape and that kind of thing, that should be seen, because it's nasty and not right to begin with. So, well, we have technical difficulties this week.
Our little alien,
our little hellion decided to mess with the light kit. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I don't think from what I've seen, I don't even want to watch that. Like, no. I don't even want to give it any more attention than it has to. I mean. It should be common sense, like, and for a big company like that to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like people give horror movies a bad rap, and then this shit is fine. It's totally all over the place. It's totally fine. So, right. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that for a second. I thought that was pretty disgusting. So, but moving right along, something that I think you guys should check out. I've been looking forward to. I'm looking forward to digging on into Cthulhu Country on HBO. And you know how much I love H.P. Lovecraft if you watch the show regularly. And you can watch the first episode free on YouTube. So check that out, cats. Not only that, I've been into watching this documentary on Shudder. It's like 4.5 hours long. It's called Search of Darkness, and it's a love letter to the iconic 80s horror. So, like, if, even if you're a horror fan, I found myself enjoying kind of revisiting these quick little facts, which a lot of the stuff going in I knew, but it's like, I don't know, it just gave me the feels. Like, I had a good time. I knew most of the stuff they're talking about, but they show you all the iconic films of the 80s. But, I mean, if you were somebody that, like horror films and you haven't seen a lot of things from the 80s, this would be your checklist.
Yeah, I probably should check that out.
I mean, it's incredible. Blew me away. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty lengthy, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, no stone was left unturned. So
seems like something you can watch for like an hour at a time each night or something. Before
you don't have to sit there and go from beginning to end. I mean, in fact, it's in like little 5 minutes, 5-minute little sections for each movie. So I mean, you could easily stop at any time you want and start at any time you want. So I mean. Check that out. I know in October this is coming up. Check out the trailer. I'm looking forward to this little movie called Scare Me. So, yeah, check that out, cats. I don't even want to tell you about it because it's kind of a cool setup. It's kind of an interesting premise. I got 2 reviews before we get to Depravity Corner this week, so I might as well just get right into them. The first, as I said the last time we were on, I'd heard the first 3 singles from the new Aquabats album, Kooky Spooky, in stereo.
Ooh.
And I told you this time I'm going to break it down for you. I tell you what, it's a really solid record. It was worth the wait. We were in the Extraordinary League of...
something Comrades?
Extraordinary Comrades, and we got it early. So I thought that was pretty cool. First track is Karate Body, which that's been released. The video's out now. It's really cool. I love Nobody Wants to Party. That's been released. Everybody likes that. Bedhead. It's kind of got like this little 80s feel to it.
Yeah.
Like this album seems very, very 80s to me.
Yeah.
Like 80s synth. And I tell you what, when I heard it was going to be that way, I was like, oh. Well, now that I hear it, it's really good.
It's kind of a trend these days, and I'm kind of here for it.
I have to say, man, like, I'm all about it. Like, I can't stop listening to it. I love it. My favorite standout track on this, though, is definitely Aliens and Monsters. I don't want to give it away because like it's just so uniquely weird and funny, and it's almost like your quintessential Aquabats song. Walk Off to me is it kind of seems probably the most rocky song on the album, and but then there's fun stuff like Dangerous Leon. Pajama's On, you heard. That's probably the most catchy song in the whole album.
And it's fun for like quarantine times.
Yeah, I mean it, and then you get songs like She's Gonna Live Forever. Sneak Attack makes me laugh every time I hear it. And you have the great, humongous weirdness of Karate Body 2. Like it's like a hidden track that just kind of went out of control.
It went off the rails.
And there's one particular, I'm not going to tell you what it is, Cats, when you listen to it, but there's one particular phrase in this song. I've been saying it ever since I heard this album all day long. I'm just playing saying to myself, you know what, forget it, I'm just going to say it. For the past, since we've got this album, I find myself at least 5 times a day going, who put the shoe in my stew? And I did it today. Like, I'm just out of nowhere, and it just gets stuck in your head. And this album will get stuck in your head because I got to say, I got to give it a 5 out of 5. I love it. I think I forgot a song, Skeleton Inside. Everybody heard that there, too.
That's one of the best ones.
Yeah, everybody heard that, too. So you can still order it. You can order it. They got this cool, you turn the lights out, and then it's glow in the dark, and they're all skeletons underneath. They got some really cool merchandise now, Cats. So check that out. One more review. I got to say, probably my favorite ska album of the year. I mean, the year is still got a couple months, but I think this is probably gonna take the cake here, man. I mean, I've listened to this countless times since I got it. Balls is gonna get a record player specifically just for this. Album's Kill Lincoln. Can't complain. I'm gonna get on track for track. I gotta say, there ain't a bad track on this album, Cats. There's the back. I got what is it? Aqua Blue vinyl.
Ooh.
So, but yeah, Greetings from Inner Space starts off. It just
awesome.
It's a bullet train, man. This album starts off, and it just don't let up until it's over.
If you were a fan of ska punk in the mid-late 90s, you're gonna love it. It just takes you back.
I couldn't have said it better myself, man. Like it's just such a nostalgic. I mean, this is how ska punk was good. It should be.
Yes.
Used
exactly.
Up. I love it. Last Ditch Denial. That was out. You've heard that. Ignorance is Bliss. Great. Who Am I This Time? I think there's so many catchy. I tell you, this is a very personal album. Like, I mean, Mike Szynski. I mean, you could tell. He gets pretty deep in this, man. There's some stuff about depression and the state of the world, but I have to say...
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
There's something that caught my eye that I haven't seen in, forever, and it makes me so happy inside. Side A, Side B.
Exactly.
The things that we and you young kids
things you take for granted.
Don't understand these days, and it's so sad.
But I have to tell you, Side B, the start of Side B, Confession, Obsession. Great, you've heard that. Well Spent, Wasted, and good. Civil Surgery is probably the best cut on this album.
Oh yeah,
It talks about the state of the world now, and it's very motivational and very hopeful. I mean, things are very dark and bleak now, and this song pretty much is like, we could change things if we all fucking come together and stop being assholes.
Well, that's not going to happen. So
I mean, we still have this song as a nice reminder of how things could have been if people weren't fuckfaces. So, Quarantine Dream. I mean, this whole album, believe it or not, was wrote during quarantine, recorded during quarantine.
I was wondering.
In pieces, it was definitely probably the most difficult album they recorded.
Yeah.
But it's definitely by far. I love all their stuff, man,
Yeah,
but this is their best album in my opinion. So. You got a couple more. You got Can't Complain, the title track, and Wim Envy. But I have to say, Kat, if you like ska punk as much as I do, this is your album. This is what you need to go and get. So.
And if you've never heard ska punk, get this album. And,
oh yeah, I mean that would be a good
I think that
introduction
would be a good place
for sure.
to start. I mean, just to introduce you to.
I mean, and whenever concerts, if they ever start again.
Yeah. Check them out.
Their live act is amazing. Not only that, I want to give a little plug to another incredible ska band that's, I'm hoping, getting more popular by the day. I absolutely love them. I just got this super cool shirt from them.
I want to get my shirt, but I can't get up. I'm tied to this. We're tethered.
This is the whole Gorilla Biscuits mock-up. Cat Bite Cats, check them out. They just put out a live album, if you're lucky enough to score it on Bandcamp. Other than that,
cool stuff.
They're incredible. So, moving right along, I just have one more thing I want to get to, and then we're going to go right to Xtina. So, I would like to talk about, we have a very special guest this week, as we've mentioned. And I just want to talk a little Tales from the Crypt here real quick.
Okay.
I wanted to give a couple facts that I think people would be kind of surprised about, being that, we're going to have the Crypt Keeper himself on. So
That's true.
I thought this is interesting, and I don't think a lot of people know this. The movie Lethal Weapon was actually responsible for how Tales from the Crypt came about.
What?
Yeah, Joel Silver is the producer of Lethal Weapon, and the director, I think, was it Richard Donner?
Okay.
They started talking to each other about how they really loved that stuff, how the comics grown up, and they were trying to adapt it into a movie for the longest time, and it just kept falling flat. And then there was bad reception to Twilight Zone, the movie. Well, I think that had a lot to do with the stuff that went on, like Vic Morrow and all that.
Yeah.
But even Creepshow, when it came out, Creepshow is probably one of the most renowned anthologies today.
Right.
And when it came out, it just
Mediocre.
did okay. So, but so then they were talking about, let's take this idea to HBO and see what they say. So then he was working with Robert Zemeckis, which, he's known for plenty of like Back to the Future, things like that, Roger
Right.
Rabbit. And the network said, yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
And the rest is history. So another interesting thing, another little nugget of info. I don't know if you know this, but Kevin Yeager is the guy that actually created the puppet.
Okay.
And I believe it took, I think it was like 12 people to work the Crypt Keeper
Wow.
at one time. But you might not know this. Kevin Yeager also worked on other things, and guess whose eyeballs the Crypt Keeper has? You know him as Charles Lee Ray, but most people know him as Chucky. The Crypt Keeper has Chucky's eyeballs. If
What?
you look real close, yeah, that's definitely
Oh my
Chucky.
heavens, he does.
So I think that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, he used clear blue eyes from his Chucky fabrications. I was wrong. It's not 12. It took 6 puppeteers to fully
Okay.
make him operational.
Okay.
And then people forget that like a lot of big name celebrities back at the time, that was like your, that was your calling, man. If you directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt, you arrived. So people like Tom Hanks and Schwarzenegger and all kinds of people directed Tales from the Crypt episodes. A lot of people also don't know that they actually shot 2 versions of the show, because in case it went to syndication, which it did for many years, without all the sex and violence, they were able to just put it right on rather than mess with it. So, funny other stuff too is my guest this week, the one and only John Kassir, he would call on the radio shows as the Crypt Keeper, and I always thought that was pretty funny.
That's fine.
So, and then the last season, I mean, if you're a fan, you know this already because you've seen them all like I have. I got the box set sitting over there. The last season, they actually did the whole season, and it was almost kind of like an homage to like Hammer, I think. They took it to the UK for the last season of Tales from the Crypt, except for the very last episode, which was animated, which I thought was super cool.
Different.
And I mean, other than that, I mean, it's still a powerhouse, man. It's still ever much as popular as it was back then. I mean, there was even a kids show. There was a game show for a short while. There was some PC game that never kind of came out. I still have it. There's a Christmas CD I listen to it every Christmas, and it's the Crypt Keeper singing messed up Christmas story, Christmas songs.
Gracious.
Like there's one where Santa Claus runs. It's called Juggle Bills, and he runs out of money, and he has to eat his reindeer to stay alive.
Oh boy,
it's great. But anyway, I mean, let's not waste any more time. That's all I really got. I'm excited to hear Xtina this week. So let's get to the Depravity Corner. I've been dying to hear it. So you know her, you love her. Let's hear it. What do you have this week, Xtina?
Well, I do have stuff that you're actually going to be kind of interested in, I think, because it's kind of mainstream stuff here, except maybe one's kind of
Something I might actually have heard of.
Yeah, you've heard of the Golden State Killer, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I remember that wacko.
Yeah, oh yeah. So, for 40 years, 40 years ago in the 70s, he began terrorizing neighborhoods in Southern California. Then he worked his way up into the Northern California area. And he would, break into homes and, I guess it started out as like a robbery thing. Then it went into rapes, and then the rapes turned into murders. And he's the guy who would make the husband watch him rape the wife, and he'd put the teacup set on their back, and if it moved, he was killing somebody. So that's pretty fucked up.
Blood-sucking freaks, man.
Okay.
Used to eat off their blood.
And the more fucked up part about this is this man was a cop. I mean, he was a cop at the time when he began this, and I think he retired. He got a different job at some point, but yeah, for the first couple years when he began this career criminal path, he was a cop, and so who better to know how to get away with shit than a cop, I guess. And so for many years this went on, and then it kind of stopped, then it kind of picked up again, and then it kind of stopped, and it kind of picked up again. So he would go for like a few years. And, they weren't even sure if they were related. They weren't sure if it was the same guy. They thought he was known as the Visalia Ransacker. He was known as the East Area Rapist. He became known as the Golden State Killer. They thought they had 3 different people here, or more maybe, but it turned out to all be the same guy, one Joseph D'Angelo. We found out because of the most wonderful invention ever, DNA. And in addition to that, the most wonderful invention of Ancestry.com. If you think for 1 minute you have any sort of criminal in your family that got away with something, do not submit your saliva to these companies, because that is how this man got found. His brother had submitted his DNA, and when they got a hold of that, and they had somewhat of a match to the Golden State Killer's DNA, and by process of elimination they came to the conclusion that it was Joseph D'Angelo based on where he lived and where he worked and all these things. So they started trailing him and following him, and that it is not illegal for cops to search your garbage can when you put it out for garbage night. They don't need a warrant for that. So one night the cops were surveilling, he put out his garbage. They went and took it, found his DNA on there. It was a match. Next day, show up to arrest him. Mr. D'Angelo says, "Hold on while I get my roast out of the oven." After 40 years, one day it's coming. One day it's going to catch up to you. And, hold on while I get my roast. That's my favorite thing in the world. But now, of course, this man's like 75 years old, 74. I mean, he looks exhausted. That has to be exhausting.
I seen a picture of him. He had this white mask on.
Yeah.
There's 2 cops next to him with masks on. It looks like he's Hannibal Lecter.
It does, doesn't it? I noticed that.
It gave me the Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my God, it was so creepy. But yeah, he apparently did get sentenced today, and of course, no big surprise, he is sentenced to life. How much life is he going to have in there? But whatever. So he'll die in prison. Great, congratulations. But. And I like that. I like that better than the death penalty. Although, with the death penalty, it's pretty much a joke because you sit on death row for 30 years anyway. But yeah, I want him to sit in a prison cell for the rest of his life and think about all the things he did. And he did, in fact, apologize to the families. He did, seem to have some remorse. But, what good does it do? But I would love to know what goes through your head when that you've done all these things, and my God, it was a lifetime ago. He went on to be married. He had a family. I mean, he had kids when he was doing these things. His one daughter is like an amazing surgeon in Chicago, from what I heard. I mean, his successful children, I feel for them. My heart aches for them. Can't imagine what that would be like for that to come out, and then that's your dad, and then are you like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense, or are you like, holy shit, you know what I mean? I can't even, Just gives me chills.
I
you
always
know?
wonder if the kids like have that
Kind of
vibe
know.
or kind of.
I feel like you kind of have to know.
Well,
Well,
I almost feel like you'd have to.
from what I heard, he was a real piece of shit. I mean, he treated his neighbors like shit. I mean, he was just that. But he was just like that grumpy old guy that you just, you're like, oh, that fucking.
It
dick.
happens to kill people.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, whatever. But he, that's that. But he got what he deserved. Life feels, complete, at least for those people now that suffered, and they had no justice, and what that doesn't bring back your innocence. It doesn't bring back what he did, but at least it gives you some sort of closure. I would imagine, And in other crime news, did you see our buddy Aunt Becky and Massimo, her husband? They are in fact going to jail. He got 5 months.
And she got 2 months.
She got 2 months, which
ridiculous.
Basically means, in the grand scheme of the law and how things work, they're going to probably go to jail for a few weeks, get out, maybe get some house arrest, and
it's not even going to be jail.
Done.
It's going to be club fed.
Right.
It's going to be cushy jail.
But listen, I don't know. I have mixed emotions. What they did is surely wrong, but I also feel like. There's been plenty of rich people that have probably done this a bazillion times over their lives. They're using them because they're celebrities to, make a point, which I get, but at the same time...
Did it really make the point, though, when you have such a ridiculous judgment?
Right. No. I don't
oh, no, I might go to jail for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Although, with someone like her, yeah... she ain't going to handle that well.
Let me ask you this. You think it'll affect her career any?
Well, honey, her career's pretty much been dead for a long time. I mean, she's
you
done...
You don't think Fuller House was a bit...
well, yeah, that's true. No, she already got kicked off of there. I mean...
Well, yeah.
But, I mean, she did some Lifetime movies, this and that. But
she did a lot of stuff
set for life. Well,
now,
maybe not now. I'm sure they have tons of fines. But he's Massimo, the guy who, if you've ever bought any piece of clothing in Target, you'll see the tag, Massimo. That's him. So anyway, that's I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. We got that solidified. But my very favorite piece of news that came out in the crime world, and a lot of you probably aren't familiar with this, but there was a girl named Alyssa Turney who went missing. She went missing back in 2001, and there's been no evidence. I mean, the stepdad said she ran away with her boyfriend. And, the cops kind of were like, all right, she probably did, that's what the dad thinks, and that's fine. Well, then, like, 8 years later, they decide to, like, hey, wait, I think your dad's kind of weird. Maybe we should look into this a little further, And then the sister, she gets older. She was, like, a few years younger of a sister. And she starts realizing things about her dad. So she, is in her, mid to late 20s now. And this girl, God bless her soul, I personally do not have the patience to do this sort of thing. She has worked tirelessly. I don't think the girl works, I don't know what she could do for money. But this girl has gone on so many podcasts in the past year and a half, 2 years, trying to get justice for her sister and to prove her father is the monster who did this to her. Her very own father. That's pretty ballsy when you and when you know your dad's pretty much a psycho. Here's how psycho this man is. He did go to jail for some time about 5 years ago probably more than that, 15 years ago, for about 10 years. Because he was an electrician. He was part of the electricians union. He started to blame the electricians union for killing his daughter. And he was threatening to blow them up with bombs and, things of that nature, which he had in his basement. Tons of bombs in the basement, tons of guns, tons of rifles, tons of shit. And he had a manifesto of something to the effect of how a psychopathic guy is going to kill the electrical union. I mean, he's a legitimate nut. And, she tried to get him to tell the truth. She tried to get him to, come forward. He won't do it. He said he'll tell her on his deathbed. That's what he told her, without admitting anything. But
well, he pretty much just admitted it.
Right. But again, not enough proof. I don't know. I haven't figured out what prompted them to finally arrest him. They must have found something that is evidence. There's no body. Nobody knows where this girl is. So it's going to be very, very, very hard to get proof of any wrongdoing when you can't find a body, unless he admits things. So that's going to suck, but he at least did get arrested. I mean, this girl was fighting with the Phoenix Police Department. I mean, and they were being real shitty to her too. And, you know, I get it. I mean, they have jobs to do, and this is 20 years old and whatever. But look, man, especially when you know without a doubt in your mind who did this to your sister, you know. So very excited for her, very excited that this could hopefully potentially get some justice, and people, at least a crazy madman, one more crazy madman will be off the streets of America, because, you know, the world needs less madman.
That's right, Izzy.
That's right, you tell him, Izzy. Where's that little crazy thing? So anyway, that's I don't know, that's what we got, man. I feel like that's a good news depravity this
Yeah,
week.
I think you hit it out of the park here.
Thank you. So
you gave us not one, not two, but 3 times the story.
That's right, 3 times the story. I mean, I gave you a little background information, but yeah, definitely go and look it up. If you want to know more about this Alyssa Turney, there's an excellent podcast. It's called Missing Alyssa, and you can hear just, there's a lot of recordings of this man. You can hear just what a complete psychopath he truly is, and how things came about to be, and just, if nothing else, it gives you the perspective of, good God, you just never know what's going on in people's homes. You know, never know.
That's true.
So that's that for depravity. Stay tuned for our guest,
John Kassir, the Crypt Keeper, the one and only himself. Real quick though, I just want to say, be sure October 24th, I believe, you could get your very own copy of one of my favorite films of the year, Scare Package, and the best bonus feature you're going to find is the episode of The Last Drive-In where they played Scare Package is a bonus feature. So you can watch it with Joe Bob, or you can watch it on your own.
Nice.
Or you can head down to Rad Chad's Horror Emporium and just rent it yourself. Actually, Fright Rags Scare Package collection. Love it. If you kids are nice, I'll show you the next 2 shirts next week. Other than that, I forgot to say, I'm looking forward to, I found Sci-Fi Channel is actually going to be picking up, they're doing another Tales from the Hood, which the last one was abysmal. The first one's one of my favorite horror anthologies of all time. Second one, ooh. But this third one, Tony Todd's actually taken over, you know him as the Candyman. And it looks, actually, it's pretty good, so I hope I'm not getting my hopes up. I hope they're back in rare form, but yeah, I'm excited for that. Other than that, I'm super excited for you cats to see my interview with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, John Kassir, the Crypt Keeper.
It's good stuff.
So, see you next time, cats, and peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on the Balls from Ellwood show, and with me, I have a man that I've admired since I was a kid. He needs no introduction. He's done it all. He's an actor, a comedian. He's done countless voices on television and film, and he's still going strong. You may know him, as I did growing up, as the iconic voice of HBO's Tales from the Crypt, Crypt Keeper. Give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, John Kassir. How you doing, man?
How you doing, man? That's so. You're like, I loved him since he was a kid. That always makes me feel old, but no, I'm kidding.
Well, it's funny,
Dude,
man.
You got gray in your beard. I'm like going, how old am I?
I just turned 44, man, but I grew up very early in the horror genre, so don't feel too old. So.
No, I'm teasing you, obviously. I'm not, I take no offense to it. In fact, I feel proud of the fact that here I am still 40 years in, making a living as an actor, and voiceover for sure has helped bring longevity to that, because you're not typed out by your age or your race or even whether you're a human or not. Obviously that's worked in my favor for a long time now.
Well, I have plenty of questions I'd like to ask to pertain to.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you grew up in Baltimore, is that correct?
That's right. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore County, in a rural part of Baltimore. 5 kids. My parents are still alive. My dad's 96 years old. My mom's 90. Sadly, she has Alzheimer's. Donate to Alzheimer's Association.
My fiance's mom has that too. I totally understand.
It could happen to any of us at any time, and it will happen to more and more of us over time. So
That's definitely a cause we need to pay further attention to.
definitely.
I don't think it gets nearly enough love for sure.
Well, my brothers and sisters are still back east. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and I have a shitload of cousins and nieces and nephews, and we have a large family on both sides of my family on the East Coast. So I grew up an East Coast guy. I've been out in LA since 1985.
Is that when you did research and you beat Sinbad?
That is correct. That is correct. It was a funny little story about how that happened. I had moved to New York in 1980 out of college after studying theater, and got my first off-Broadway show, which lasted 3 weeks and then closed because of fighting between the artistic team and
the creative differences
and the producers. And you go, okay, this is what professional theater is going to be like. Yeah, I was making $175 a week. I was making more money as a street performer in front of the Metropolitan Museum. So, and that kind of gave me a yen for doing, all kinds of different comedy, which helped,
But was you doing voices when you were younger? Like, where did that come from? Did it just come?
Oh, totally. I used to imitate everything on the TV set. I was dyslexic as a kid, and I think that I had an easier time. Like, I wanted to study music as a kid, and I had a snare drum, and I would try to learn my drums, and because it was slow to read the music, I couldn't learn it that way. I think I found that I could imitate things better than actually try to learn how to actually do them. But I used to get involved in all the fun little talent shows with my buddy Fred and Fred Smythe. Everybody's got their Fred Smythe in their life, and my buddy and I would do the morning announcements in high school, and we would do the following morning announcement brought to you by a grant from the Mobile Corporation. We'd imitate the teachers, and we'd imitate the Beatles, and we'd imitate all kinds of characters on there. And I think that my voiceover career really launched from the fact that winning that Star Search thing. I actually hadn't really barely done any stand-up comedy, more sketch comedy over a number of years. Some friends and I from college had a sketch comedy group called Animal Crackers, and we had toured the world for the USO and worked in clubs in New York. But I was doing an off-Broadway show called Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down, which is not what it sounds like. It was a metaphor for how stand-up comics feel in front of an audience when you're bombing. And it was written by a guy named Jerry Coker, and Jerry had been an actor in Chorus Line and Pippin and that kind of thing on Broadway, and he wrote this show. Think Dreamgirls, but with stand-up comics.
Huh.
So it was a musical
Cool.
about 3 stand-up comics and their rise into the entertainment industry, and starred myself along with Scott Bakula, and
nice.
from Quantum Leap and Enterprise, and of course NCIS New Orleans now, and and we played 3 stand-up comics who alone weren't having much success, but become a 3-guy team, and they have a huge success on the Tonight Show and all this kind of stuff, which is kind of neat. And people saw me in the show and thought I was a stand-up comic and asked me to come do Star Search. And they're like, hey, we want you to come on to Star Search. And I'm like, it was just the very first season of the show. And I had watched a couple of them and watched this guy, Sam Harris, who was such a great singer on the show. And I was like, here I am doing this musical. I thought they wanted me to come on as a singer. I was like, that guy's really good. I can sing him in a musical, but that guy can sing. I was like, I can't compete with him. They go, no, we want you to come on as a stand-up comic. And I go, I'm not really a stand-up comic. It's just a part that I'm playing in the show. They go, well, you can win $100,000. I'm like,
I could be a stand-up comic.
I got my ass in the clubs and put together an act, and I went on the show and I won.
That's awesome.
So, it was kind of a, and of course that launched my television career. But because I didn't really have material, and I didn't have jokes, a lot of my act was, I based my act on a guy who was addicted to television. So I would do, I'd do like the Wizard of Oz in 2.5 minutes, and I would do all the characters from Star Trek, and and so that kind of was part of the reason why people knew that I did all these voices and characters, and how it wound up eventually launching me from working on another series on HBO to being asked to come audition for Tales from the Crypt.
Was that First and 10?
It was First and 10. First and 10 was HBO's first series about a football team. I played the Bulgarian field goal kicker that could kick 60-yard field goals. And I worked with Delta Burke. That was her first show.
It was a good show.
It was a great show. It really had Chris Maloney from SVU played quarterback a couple of seasons. Jason Begay, who's on Chicago Cop, was a quarterback for a number of seasons. Of course, O.J. Simpson was on the show. He played the general manager on the show, and he was one of the producers as well. Crazy times. I don't want to take up all your time talking about that, so we'll, that'll be something for the next time.
Well, let me ask you, sir. Were you a horror fan at a young age, and what film made the biggest impression on you?
Oh, forget it. I loved horror as a kid. When I was a kid, obviously you couldn't. There were no DVDs. There were no videotapes. There was no streaming. You had to look in the TV guide to see what might be playing that week and see if you could find stuff that you wanted to watch. And I remember there was something, I think it came on at 4:30 every afternoon called Twilight Movie. And, so I'd sit and watch these different movies when my mom was making dinner. And they had everything from, Doris Day movies, musicals to, the sci-fi movies were really big. Mothra and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman and, all these movies. But thrown in there were all the Universal horror monster movies.
Oh, I love this.
And so, to this day, Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is still my favorite comedy. And
that's so good.
Probably was my favorite horror movie because it had all the Universal characters, a lot of the Universal characters in them. And Frankenstein, of course, I wanted Frankenstein as a kid. In Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, there's a scene where they're unpacking Frankenstein from a crate he's got the packing material around him. So I was like, Mom, you can order one of these. I want one, And I had Tales from the Crypt comic books, although I wasn't supposed to have them. I had to hide them in my Casper comics. My grandfather had an old store, and he would, my cousins were always trying to steal the Playboy magazines, and I was always trying to steal the Tales from the Crypt comic book. But
my heart's sad too.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tales from the Crypt, how did you transition into acting and voice work, and how did you end up as the Crypt Keeper?
Well, obviously, having done stand-up comedy on all those voices and stuff, voice work wasn't a stretch for me in terms of being able to do it. It was just a matter of getting the work. And, they especially back then, like to hire the people they knew could deliver when they showed up to do the work. And, they wanted people for cartoons. They wanted people for they weren't really doing as many games and stuff yet. And that kind of thing. And, my agents gave me a call and said, listen, we got a call from HBO, or the casting people from Tales from the Crypt. And I'm calling, they're doing Tales from the Crypt as a series. I had that comic book as a kid, HBO was, maybe in 20% of households back then. It was, not really around. If you want to watch HBO, you usually went to some friends on a Saturday night and watched Tales from the Crypt or whatever, and which was part of its popularity. And so they said, we need you to go down to Kevin Yeager's studio and audition for it. So, I went down and did it in his studio. I got to see what the puppet that he was working on, what it looked like, and had him laughing as he was recording me on a boombox with a little microphone, and he's like, yeah, that's it, and there was all these other voice actors and actors in the comics and stuff, it's in the waiting room to audition. And they're all looking at the puns going, be careful what you ask for. You may get it. They're like, this stuff sucks. And I was like, no, you don't get it. It's Shakespeare to this guy. This is awesome. This is the fun stuff. So, obviously that, the next, Kevin liked what I was doing so much, he had me doing it for Richard Donner and Dick Donner and Walt and Joel Silver in their office the next day.
Nice.
They're like, okay, we'll see you on the set. And I was like, holy shit.
Oh my gosh, that's
You
amazing.
don't believe it when somebody says that to you, until they call your agent and actually book you and you're getting paid. You're like thinking that, But it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal because it wasn't paying, all the money was going into the budget. They couldn't afford to pay you much. It was HBO. They didn't have big budgets for that yet and that kind of thing. And I'm going, I'm still sitting there thinking this is just going to be a cult thing. But little did I know, not only it was the thing that I'm most remembered for out of the 300 different jobs that I've done, and since just living in Hollywood, it doesn't include my career prior to moving out here. But also the thing that launched my voiceover career, because it was a very high profile voice acting job. And people were like, oh my God, I want the guy that does the voice of Crypt Keeper to come and audition for me and do my cartoon or whatever. And, and over the years has proven to be, not the highest paying job, but the most consistent, because I'm not typed out by my age or, how I look or my race or, whether I'm male or female or even whether I'm human or not. So, that's launched quite it's brought a lot of longevity to my career as I've gotten older too, just because there's a lot less parts for you on camera, not being limited by those things, allows me to work as much as I always have.
Well, that leads me to my next series of questions here. It's about you working as a voice actor. Does voice work ever take a toll on your voice?
Oh, most definitely. There's a reason. There's a reason that they limit, sessions to 4 hours for a regular voice job and 2 hours for a strenuous one, because it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're talking, it's not about straining your voice. It's just using it. You have your vocal cords are these, very delicate, vibrating muscles in your, in your throat, and they stop vibrating after a while properly. And if you abuse them, they also get calluses on them called nodes, and you can abuse your vocal cords and ruin your voice or worse. And there are a lot of singers, especially rock singers, that have, from years of abusing their voice, have had to have everything from surgery and that kind of thing. And people are like, oh, the Crypt Keeper must be really hard for you, and you must really, honestly, some of the voices that you create in your own vocal range are easier to do than, say, sometimes when you're trying to do an impersonation of somebody else's voice or their voice, because you have to manipulate more towards something that sounds like their voice rather than your own voice. So you're doing, and then I do a lot of animals and creatures, and those things sometimes aren't always voiced things as much as mouth sounds and throat sounds and that kind of thing too. And those can, same thing, give you, I had to do rhinoceros, I had to do these, I used to do animals on The Simpsons. They'd bring me in to do animals years ago. And there was a whole zoo that Homer and Bart let loose. And I had to do herds of rhinoceros, snorting, and I was literally bleeding from doing snorting, But so those kind of things are, those are kind of things can be difficult. You have to protect your voice. It's your instrument. It's like taking care of your, your Stradivarius or whatever. You got to take care of it.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever do voices in the shower like all day long? I mean, do you ever make characters? Do you ever make them say like crazy shit when you're in your shower? Like, the Crypt Keeper, talking about how you didn't pay your insurance bill, or
probably not the Crypt Keeper at this point, because I still do it a lot for, whether it's for my cameos or that kind of stuff. A lot of people these days want the Crypt Keeper doing their cameos for everything from birthdays to, announcing that they're pregnant with their first child to their family.
That's awesome.
Like, get out of here. This is awesome. Yeah. I've been, people are telling, it's like I've had a guy ask, asked me to ask his, pop the question to his fiance and stuff as the Crypt Keeper.
Did she say yes?
She did say yes. She certainly did. They sent me a video of her looking at it, and she was like, yes, definitely. Yeah. But, but yeah, I mean, I'm always like right now. I'm doing I'm doing a title character in a movie of a squirrel, and so I not only have to make realistic squirrel noises, but then I have to manipulate those so they sound like human emotions or exclamations and stuff like that. So I'm doing them and practicing them, and my dogs are going nuts. I have 2 border collies, and because we have squirrels all around where I live in a, like in an area that is a lot of it's parkland and nature reserve. It's like, they think the squirrels are out there and they go running to the door and barking, all this stuff. So I'm trying, and then when I go to record, if they hear it in my studio, they start barking and ruining my takes. But, so yeah, I'm always practicing. It's always something fun to do. I'm sure I have some stuff in my mailbox that I have to record as auditions. And a lot of times it's like, you need to nail the voice of a character from, Harry Potter that's going to be in a game or something like that. And it's not easy to do. So, you're always practicing. You're always seeing how far your voice can go, seeing what kind of shape it's in. If you've been working all week, sometimes you have to do a job and you're like, do I have that range there that I need? Plus I sing a lot because I started out in musicals and stuff. I love singing, and you lose range as you get older. You try to keep your voice in good form so that you can do the stuff that you always did.
That being said, sir, in your body of work, what would you consider to be the most challenging voice you've had to create?
Challenging voice. Oh, well, it's funny because obviously you have to, sometimes when you do impersonations, you want to really, be as precise as you can. You don't really get hired a lot to do impersonations. I know a lot of people go like, hey, I should be a voice actor. I can do all these impersonations. It's like, that's great. Start creating your own voices because you get to use those a lot more than impersonating anybody. But because I do creatures and animals and that kind of stuff as well, like when I did Elliot and Pete's Dragon, that was tough because first of all, the creature's huge. So I don't have a huge voice. I have a wide range of emotion that I can bring with sounds to my voice. So where most of the time you wouldn't change the pitch of my voice, that we had to because, I had to make him sound like, a 60-foot creature instead of me. So at first we were like doing all these big sounds, and there's just so many sounds you can make and range that you have in that sound. I was like, here's my suggestion. Let's do all the stuff in my vocal range, and then we'll, pitch it to the size that you need it. Because it's hard enough trying to bring those different sounds and purrs. And here this really wonderful young actor had played to this tennis ball on a pole, green screen for, months, and done this wonderful performance to nothing. And so they needed, and the CGI that they did was so wonderful. They needed somebody who could bring the personality to that matched the level of the acting of this kid in the CGI that the wonderful artisans did for the movie. And luckily I had my friend Lisa Churgin, who I've known for many, many years, who was the editor on the movie, knew what she needed to fill this entire movie with these sounds. So we spent a lot of sessions in a large soundstage, just Doc, who's over at Disney, who's just one of the most amazing engineers ever, and Lisa Churgin and myself, and of course David, the director, putting his 2 cents worth in. He had to be in New Zealand doing reshoots and stuff, so we had to capture a bunch of this stuff on our own. And it was hard. It was hard work trying to get subtlety in all these different sounds and things, and have them make sense with what they had already recorded. A lot of times, like Miko the raccoon, I recorded most of my stuff before they animated to it.
Oh, wow.
So, I would get the scenario. They would have storyboards. They would say, okay, Miko is running, gets to the edge of a cliff. He goes through a log. He comes out. He's in midair. He realizes he's falling. He's panicking. He sees there's water down there. He goes into a swan dive. He pops into the water. He pops up, spits out, shakes, and makes a funny little noise. Go. So then they do that, and they animate to that. Then you go pick up stuff later after they've animated it to bring that back to life. And some of these other movies, like the one I'm doing now, it has to be the picture, that they've already CGI'd and done the whole thing. So it's not really animated. It's done in a different form. So a lot of it's coming back and making it match to what they've done. So you need to do your subtlety and your sounds, how they are imagining hearing it or wanting to hear it, or give them a magic that replaces what they had thought in the first place. And and bring that all together. And it's people think it's easy, but it's not. It's and
I would imagine it to be very difficult.
I've worked with some of the best actors in the business, and they weren't necessarily that great at voice acting, just because it's a different mindset. You're using a different part of your imagination, and then it's coming out in your voice.
Let me ask you a couple more here, and I'm going to let you go because I know you got stuff to do here, John. But I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan when he was trying to reboot Tales from the Crypt with no Crypt Keeper?
Well, I don't think it was his call. I'm sure he would have loved to have had the Crypt Keeper because, let's face it, that is the franchise these days. People grew up with it. And so, originally we didn't have that under our belt. All we wanted to do was honor the comic book, and William Gaines was involved in it. He was still alive, and they did their best to bring the comic book to life, and they did such an amazing job. How do you top that or even match it? And so because we had the rights to it at that time, we created our version of the Crypt Keeper, for Tales from the Crypt, and our version of Tales from the Crypt. And then once we didn't have the rights anymore, we had the rights to the Tales from the Crypt. When I say we, I mean my producers that I worked with, the people that I worked for. I don't personally own the rights to Tales from the Crypt, or the Crypt Keeper. And our version of the Crypt Keeper went with us. People can't just grab that Crypt Keeper and say, I want to use that Crypt Keeper. That was our version. They can come up with their own version of the Crypt Keeper. They can do they want once they purchase the rights or licensing from EC Comics. So I think their idea of what they wanted to do, it would have been nice to see whatever they did with Tales from the Crypt. I loved Tales from the Crypt as a kid. So, and I love anthology series, but then they were talking about not doing it as an anthology series, which didn't
I thought that was strange too. I mean, do you think we'll ever have a faithful reboot? And not only that, I wanted to ask you, what's one thing about you that fans may find surprising?
That I'm 6'5". No, I'm actually. I'm 5'8", but no. That I started out as a stage actor, maybe. A lot of fans nowadays only know me as a voice actor, but because that's been the second half of my career. Because as you're older, they just, like I said, you have less parts for you, and you have more choices as a voice actor. But I started on the stage as an actor. I was dyslexic as a kid. And so getting up in front of the class or getting up and performing was an easier way for me to express myself. So, in fact, I even had my own kid show back in '97.
Johnny Land? Was that
Johnny
it?
Time.
Johnny Time, that was it. I remember that.
You won't find it because it was it's in some tape library because Viacom, who I did the show with, was then sold to Paramount, which was sold to CBS, which was sold to whoever, and nobody knows where the original versions of it are, and only versions I have rights to be able to put them out there, but the only versions I have are on VHS tape, and it's just not going to look good if I put it up. But maybe I'll try. If you look at it on your phone, it'll look good.
I would like to see that.
But it was an amazing show. We got Pee-wee's Playhouse designer Wayne White to do all our sets, and you know, it was a psychedelic kid show. It was really great.
I remember. I thought it was cool, man. One more question. What's your most fondest memory of working on Tales from the Crypt? Is there one that stands out in your mind?
Gosh, I always had a good time working in the studio with Kevin Yeager and Gil Adler, the producer, and Alan Katz and everybody. We had an amazing time. I'll never forget going down to the set the first time, and they were, of course, still making the Crypt Keeper's crypt, and the art, and for fun, the art department had been carving the producers' faces into the ceiling, and the and Kevin Yeager's and all this stuff, and they were in the process of carving my face, which was really cool. You never would have seen it on the show because you would have had to go up to the underneath the crypt and into the ceiling. But you know, I got to meet so many great people on the show. Invited down to the set anytime I wanted, but also if the Crypt Keeper was playing opposite somebody, whether it was Arnold Schwarzenegger or Whoopi Goldberg or whoever, you know, they would need me to play opposite them off camera. But I remember going down to the set when they were shooting Death of Some Salesman, and Tim Curry was Winona that day, which is the daughter in that episode. If you know that episode, he plays the mother, the father, and the daughter. And he was amazing. My parents had never seen anything shot before I took them down, and they were like, they couldn't believe it. They go, that's a man? I go, yeah, that's Tim Curry. They didn't know who Tim was. It was funny. They had given him these hammer toes and, you know, in these earth shoes and stuff. It was like, he was so great. He was just so wonderful. It was amazing. I just watched that episode the other day just for fun. I keep in close touch with Gil Adler, especially during the pandemic. We've been doing a little cocktail party every Friday night, you know, just to hang out. And
I have the box set sitting right here by my couch every night. I pop them in all the time still, man. I mean, but I just wanted to say, you haven't been closed. Do you have any words of hope for this crazy time? What do you think, Joe?
Well, be safe. Wash your bony little fingers. Wear a mask. No, not that one. 6 feet apart or 6 feet under. Mask it or casket.
but seriously, be safe. Be smart. You know, we're still the best country in the world, and there's still, you know, amazing people, and you know, don't let the haters in the government just split us up. We should be bonding together, not against them, but making them do what they're supposed to do for us, rather than taking on each other. That's a fool's errand to do that. And you know, if we're safe, if we all put a little time into being safe, all this will go away faster, and we can all you know, we can all enjoy going out. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, to do for one another, with one another. I think we'll get the best results, and I hope that happens.
I couldn't agree more, sir. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I can't thank you enough. Last but not least, where can we find you on the internet? Where can your fans get in touch with you at?
Well, under my own name, John Kassir, JohnKassir. I'm on Facebook. I have my full 5,000 people, but you can always follow me, and you'll still get to see the same stuff I put out there every day, and also contact me and that kind of stuff. And of course, I'm on Instagram under my name, and also Twitter. And people have been booking these cameos through the cameo.com, you know, Cameo, their website. You can book them on the app too, but the app, I think, charges a little more because it's got to be an app, you know. But so I suggest you just go to that, find me there. You can see some of the stuff I'm doing. I'm having a good time doing it. It's like I'm doing my little, I try to treat each one like it's a little movie.
You can tell you're having a blast, man. I got one. I can't recommend it enough. I cherish it to this day. It was so incredible. Love it. You heard that audio. Go and check. You get a cameo from John Kassir here, man. You're not going to be disappointed. John, we love you, man. Thank you so much for this. Peace and love, sir. Thank you for being a guest on the Balls from Ellwood show. And hey, keep it creepy, man.
The pleasure's all mine.